Hey everyone, James O'Reilly here, feeling really proud to let you all know that I've been shortlisted as one of Australia's most influential financial advisors for 2025. Now, from here, it's most votes wins. So if you have been enjoying this podcast, I'd be super grateful for you to please sling a vote my way. You can do that by just jumping down to the show notes, and there's a link there you can click on and you're away. Voting ends, I think, on the 6th of September, so please get that vote in early. And thank you again. Let's get on with what is a fantastic episode. Welcome back to the Australian Retirement Podcast. I'm a little bit confused today because I have the co-host of the Australian Finance Podcast here today with me, Gemma Mitchell. Hi, mate.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
You're
Come
welcome.
over to the other side of the podcast.
Yeah, this is the less cool but more relaxed side.
Less cool.
Yeah, enjoy it. It's going to be good.
No, I will. I'm excited because for like 15 years of my career was all retirement planning. So this is my space.
Well, watch out, Drew.
Yeah, move over. I'm coming after your job.
Well, I'm really pumped to have you on the show today, and we've got some a really special achievement for you personally, which is that very recently, not only are you a fantastic financial advisor, of course, you're the co-host of the Australian Retirement Podcast, you are a financial advisor at RASK and doing great work for a lot of people, but you have also written a pretty bloody good book, mate, the Money Reset.
The Money Reset, yes.
Yeah, tell us about this.
Yeah, that was a huge feat. And I'm going to say it will be my one and only book.
Yeah, you said that with like a hint of PTSD about you.
I think so. But I think it's like, I don't know if you've renovated houses before, but I've renovated a few and halfway through you always go, never again. And then when you finish, you're just like, oh, actually, that was a little bit fun. Maybe I will. So right now I'm saying never again, but there might be another one.
Uh-huh. Well, isn't there, like, for children, there is a real biological thing that happens there where it's certainly with women, but I can't remember if it's with men, but if you when you go through that experience, there's a biological thing that happens where you kind of forget and...
Yes.
Well, childbirth wasn't so bad, actually.
Otherwise you wouldn't go back,
yeah.
right? Yes, absolutely. Yep. And it's not till like the last few months of the pregnancy that you start remembering and you're just like... Too late now.
And at that point, you'd already committed to the book and it was happening.
That'll be number 2 with the book too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, noted. All right. Well, in particular, you're here today because looking at this book, there was one thing that stood out to me, which is that the whole concept of this is around a reset with your money and the times when your life changes, your financial life changes. Hopefully, most Australians are going to go through a huge reset, a voluntary reset, which is retirement. That big step of going from full-time work to potentially part-time or potentially just going straight to no work and how you make that adjustment. And I think that there's so many actionable points in this book about how to do that, not just on that at that particular time, but the pre-work that you can do to get yourself to a point where you are ready. Yes. So can we have a chat about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So where the book started was when I went through my divorce. All aspects of my finances needed to change, from how I managed my bank accounts, my goals, just how money flowed in and out of my life, which is very similar to retirement. And actually in the book, I talk about all of the, circumstances where you might need a money reset. So divorce, job loss, health scare, and retirement is absolutely one of them. Like what you've done for your whole working career might not actually serve you, like the way you've managed your money. The way you've approached finances might actually need to change in retirement. A reset can happen at any age. And there's some clear kind of steps that make that so much easier.
One thing that really stood out to me in this book was the idea that, it was written here, that life disruptions can become really powerful turning points if they're used intentionally.
Yes.
And that really stood out to me with thinking about retirees. We're both financial advisors. We both work with retiree clients, right? And so I'm very confident saying that you would have seen so many times where someone comes to see you with a very, very thin retirement plan, potentially no intentionality about it at all, other than just, do I have enough to retire? And you say, okay, well, what do you want your retirement to look like? And people aren't naturally good at trying to work that out.
Yeah.
It's so important as part of this process, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And I think people can find it really hard to imagine what the next stage of life will be like. So for myself, that was divorce, right? Like I'm like, how do I set goals and things? I don't know what life will look like in a year or 2 years, 5 years. And that can be retirement as well. Like if you've always worked in the same job and had this routine and things, it can be really scary to think, okay, well, I know what most people do in retirement, but is that going to work for me? And what is it going to look like for me? And am I going to enjoy it? So it's a really scary transition, and you can lose a lot of yourself in that transition if you're not clear on what that looks like and you don't have the comfort in your stability and all of like if you've got question marks hanging over your head on what it's going to look like and if you can achieve it, if you're going to be secure, and that can be really, really scary.
I think also to add to that, everyone just assumes that everyone else has got it. So many other people have retired and I never hear anyone complaining about how difficult that transition was. So I suppose it'll be simple for me. And then if it's hard, what does that mean? What does that say about me if I'm struggling with this? So many people do this effortlessly.
Yes.
And I think that probably creates a lot of silent sufferers where you're not necessarily feeling like you've got it right. Maybe your happiness isn't where it used to be a few years ago when you were working, but you can't put a finger on why, and you don't necessarily want to explore it all that much.
Yeah, and it might be that you have nobody that you feel comfortable actually talking to these feelings. So I find that when we talk about money, or when we want to talk about money, there are two things that can happen. You can feel a bit like embarrassed or ashamed of your situation. So maybe there's people around you that you don't want to talk to, or maybe you're in the total opposite, that you're in a much stronger position than the people around you and you feel like, I can't complain about this, I can't talk to them about it. And that's where like a financial advisor, and I call it the village in the book, like there's all these people that make up your village, and it might be accountability partners, like the cheerleaders who support you, the people that keep you motivated, mentors, and then of course there's the professionals like financial advisors, accountants, all of that kind of thing. But you need to find the people that can support you at all these different considerations. It's not always about money. So money is tied to like every sense of our security. So there's so many things there, and it might not be a financial advisor. They might help you with one part, but there might be some other key people that need to help you with this transition.
I couldn't agree more there. Yeah, the importance of who's going to help you and who's going to be there for you, and picking the right people, not necessarily just people that maybe on paper can do the work, but people you like, people that you
Yes.
enjoy seeing every week or month or quarter, or whatever frequency.
I always like when people are talking about finding a financial advisor, I'm always like, meet with 3, just have a quick conversation with 3, because yes, they need to have the experience and the technical skills and be like a specialist in the area that you're dealing with, because kind of like doctors, like we specialize in different stuff, but you just need to get along with them. Like you actually need to like this person and feel comfortable and feel like you're a team. So always find someone you gel with. And the other thing about your village, especially with a big transition like retirement, I always say to people, it's okay to outgrow your village. Like who helped you build your wealth in your 40s is probably not going to be the person that helps you move into retirement. You know, it might be a totally different strategy, and it's okay to outgrow these people.
What a cool point. Let's move across, if I may, to the book is full of practical suggestions. It has 12 steps, very actionable steps to take in order to take control of your financial life, especially after a big reset. But something that really captured my attention was around the concept of mindset. Like underpinning all of those steps is the idea of fostering and creating the right mindset. Can you speak to why you put that in the book and why you felt it was very important?
Yeah, so a couple of points on this. So I've been a financial advisor for like over 15 years, and it was never really about mindset a while ago. It was just kind of like, what do you mean you're not sticking to this plan? This is the best plan in the world. Like your statement of advice is your success plan. And it's like, actually you can't stick to it because you have these money mindset blocks and your daily habits are impacting that plan. You know, you might meet with your advisor once a year back then, and you just feel like, what do you mean? Like, you're stressed about which card you pay groceries. Like the mindset, the daily things really can hold us back. And I've seen a massive shift in financial advice, which is amazing. But why mindset's so important through all these steps is I was going through a divorce, and I know, like I help people go through all of this, and I know the kind of feelings and different things that come up, but I hadn't actually felt them. And when I was going through it, I was like, this is so much harder than I thought it was going to be. So in every step, there's really reflective kind of questions, and it brings up why might you be feeling this, and why is it okay that maybe you don't have it all figured out. Like my big thing in there is your sleep at night test. So everything needs to come back to your sleep at night test. And I have like 10 questions in there that are examples of what you might put in your sleep at night test. And I say just pick 3. So every time you've got to make a decision, whether it's financial, lifestyle, something, you want to ask yourself those 3 questions to go, am I uncomfortable with this because I'm scared and it's new, or am I uncomfortable because it's not right for me? And how do you differentiate between the scary feeling of growth and the you shouldn't actually be doing this, full stop. So that mindset stuff is just so challenging because we just get stuck in well, this is the way it's always been, this is safe, and it's more uncomfortable to move out of that norm. So yeah, I think the mindset stuff is very, very important. And we see people go into retirement and they've had a huge identity change. So yeah, it's even more important there, I think.
I love that separation around why you're uncomfortable. That's I love hearing that because that makes a lot of sense in my own life too, thinking about my own decisions. I feel with mindset too, and it was identified here in the book, actionable plans. If you don't really have a genuine motivation to execute on the plan, what's that wonderful expression? If information were the answer, we'd all be millionaires with washboard abs, right?
Yes.
So you can effortlessly, every human being can effortlessly go to, can go onto YouTube, ChatGPT, Google, the list goes on and on and on, and find a great workout regime. And just if you follow that for a year, your life will materially, your health will materially improve.
Yeah.
In most cases. It's not about the information, it's about the execution. And to execute well, aside from having perhaps accountability partners and things like that, you also need a really good connection to why you're doing the things that you're doing.
Yes.
And it's interesting how, especially as you go through a big reset in your life, those connections become a lot more tenuous. So it's like sort of rebuilding those and trying to become more central about who am I and what do I want in my life. They are the things that allow you not just to have more clarity on the decisions, but also to continue to execute on those things that you need to and be motivated to get that stuff done, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is probably why I love working with retirees, and why I'd say most advisors do, is because they have that urgency that they're like, oh, okay, time is ticking. I can see when I need to have this stuff sorted by. Whereas I find the younger people are with, learning about super and different things. They're like, oh, I've got time. But around retirement, there's a real urgency that, oh, it's coming, I better get my stuff sorted. So I think that helps a lot with retirees going, if I feel like this about my money in 12 months' time, am I okay with that? And if the answer is no, then there is your urgency. You need to start with moving the needle, right? And the 12 steps is, the reason there's 12 is you might actually pick up the book and go, oh no, I've already got that nailed, and you can skip some chapters, or you do them in a different order, whatever that is. But I just want people to concentrate on the one thing, because if we want to go from 0 to 100, that is very overwhelming. So if you can just go, okay, what's keeping me up at night right now? It's that I don't know anything about super, or I don't really know what I need to spend in retirement, what it's going to cost me. So you just need to focus on that one step, and we don't need to look at it all. We just need to nail one area, and then we can move on to the next.
Thanks for watching this episode of the podcast. A common question that we get at RASK is, how do I need to be prepared if I want to see a financial advisor? There's a few things that stand out that may really help you if you want to get the best from an advisory relationship. The first is to come prepared. It's really valuable if you can arrive at that meeting with a good sense as to what you want to achieve from an advisory relationship. Now, there's lots of different financial advisors out there that operate very differently. And if you don't have a good sense as to what you want to achieve, it can be kind of easy to get pulled into their advice philosophy and their approach. It can be hard to define what is the best advice relationship for me. So whether it's you or you and your partner having a good conversation to say, what do we actually want to get out of this? That will really, really help you to know that you're in the right place when you sit down with your advisor. The second one is to be open-minded. You may very well work out that there is 1 or 2 specific things that we're looking to address with our financial life. But a really good financial advisor is going to be thorough. They're not just going to look at those things. They're going to be as exhaustive as they can be about your entire financial life and make sure that everything is lined up and set up the way that it should be. So when you go into that process, please be open-minded that the highest value that you might get is not necessarily solving those 1 or 2 acute things that you wanted. The last thing is to be curious. If you are watching this podcast, it's probably because you are watching or listening. It's probably because you want to learn more about your finances. You want to level up when it comes to your education. And if you're going to meet with a financial advisor, it may be your first opportunity to transition that general knowledge that you've developed about your finances into your own situation and how it applies to you. So be curious. It makes sense for you to try to understand as well as possible, how do all these things work for me? Because at the end of the day, it's your financial journey and it's your money, and all of the advice should be helping to serve your unique situation. Now, if you want to learn more about how to get the most from your advisory relationship, you can either scan here, and that will take you to a guide that gives you a heap more information. Alternatively, if you scroll down below, there is a link to a Northeast Wealth page that we put together not too long ago, and that similarly outlines the key things that you should be doing in order to get the very most from the relationship. Thanks again for watching this episode of the podcast. I'm James O'Reilly from Northeast Wealth. We hope you enjoy it. I really resonate with your point at the beginning of that about how for retirees, you develop that sense of urgency, whereas for accumulators, even we find with accumulators in their perhaps 50s, they say, I'm not really sure about when I'm retiring. So you might be 58, I'm not sure, but I don't need to really think about it because it's a long way away. So, well, not necessarily.
And
it's,
yeah.
And to speak to that, during COVID, with my business, I was trying to solve a problem that I just couldn't seem to work out, which is that everyone gets the same advice experience. Everyone gets the same frequency of meetings. The advice should primarily be the same. And we would have two individuals that would come through this advice process. And over the course of 2 or 3 or 4 years, even though on paper they should be more or less achieving the same same outcomes, one couple or one individual makes an enormous amount more progress, not just in terms of how much money they have at the end, but in terms of how well they consistently address their goals, their career trajectory, a whole heap of things like that.
The mindset stuff as well.
Yeah. And this was during COVID, where you were all locked at home and you were forced to do either two things. You either drink wine, or maybe when you get bored of that, you start doing, you start on some sort of side hustle or project. Well, I've already had a business, so I didn't need a new one. But what I did, I had this Post-it notes with I'd graphed progress versus situation, and I was putting Post-it notes of our different clients to say, what are the differences? Because it feels separated. And the biggest thing that stood out to me was exactly as you've said. It was, how soon are you thinking in terms of your goals into the future?
Yeah.
And I realized that the people that didn't necessarily get the most from our advice process were people that would have important but really long-term goals. So they might be saying, for example, 45, saying, I'd like to retire around 60 if we can, and just pay off the house and those sorts of things. And we'd say, okay, and without really leaning into it much more, we'd say, no problem, we're clear on that, let's keep moving. But the relationship that you have with your future self becomes weaker over time. There's no shortage of scientific evidence to support that. And the simple analogy, if I said to you, hey, tonight we're going to go out and drink 11 beers, you probably think about tomorrow and what you need to do and think about the hangover and say no. But if I said to you, let's do that sometime in 12 months, next year, 2028, we are going to go out and drink 11 beers together, you're so much more likely to say yes. Hangover's the same, pain's the same, you're not going to be able to afford the time either way.
Yourself.
Yeah,
yes,
but the relationship is weaker and you're more likely to fall. And so we found that when we were working with people that sat down and said, I've got really good goals, but they're 10, 15, 20 years away, the problem that we had was that you're not actually that emotively connected to it, not to the extent that it's going to change your behavior. It's going to motivate you to say, I'm really going to push for that promotion, or I'm really going to rein in my budget, because the long-term effect of that, it's too far away for you to care.
Yeah.
So I understand what you're saying. When you're working with that retiree that says, I want to retire in 18 months, there's that, all the goals are right in front of you, and you realize that I need to do actionable stuff now. So it's changed our model entirely. We're very much focused on, regardless of where you are, everything's reined into the next 5 years. Tell me about where you want to be over that timeline, because anything beyond that becomes pretty flaky for all but the most incredibly well-minded and disciplined of people.
Well, that applies in goal setting everywhere, right? If we've got a goal, we don't, even if it's a first home buyer, right? We don't want the goal to be, you've got $0 now, you need a deposit of 50,000. Off you go. We want to break it down into small, achievable chunks so that that's all you need to think about. And retirement is exactly the same. In the book, I I probably contradict myself a little bit, but I'm a walking contradiction, love it. But I say, because this is about big transitions like divorce, loss of job, retirement, like big shifts of your identity and your life, hence you need the reset. I talk about, what if you can't imagine, like, what if you can't set big goals? Sometimes we put so much pressure on ourselves to know what our goal is, and we hear that other people's goal is, a travel allowance and a caravan and a holiday house, and we hear all these big goals, and like, what if you don't know your goals? So I talk about in the book that maybe your goal is as simple as, next time my rego or my rates come in, I don't want to stress about it. I don't want to have the same feeling when I see it come in my inbox or come in the mail. Just stuff like that. Like, your goals don't have to be big, audacious goals, but you want to have some kind of goal that you're working towards. And then maybe you get to the year and you've achieved that and you go, actually, okay, now I can imagine in retirement, I'd like to have a little buffer for travel. How do I start working towards that? But we don't need to have like massive, audacious goals. We can, just like we break up big goals into little ones, we can just start with really little goals that are going to be life-changing to how we feel. Mm-hmm. So I think that's really important.
Hold off on the enormous vision boards.
Yes.
Agreed. In this book, you talk about non-negotiables, and I think you did a really good task of it. And it's so important for retirees. Can you speak to non-negotiables and why this makes a big difference?
Yeah. So if we think about like financial buffers and things like that, I think most people go to, I need an emergency fund and I need to have my expenses covered. But I talk about non-negotiables as what is something in your life that you're not prepared to not have in your life. Like, it has to be in there. So for me, when I think about my non-negotiables, it's like kids' education always being paid for, always stable housing, and then I can link it back to, okay, well, it's all income driven, so that means I need income protection. So mine's really easy. For a retiree, actually I had a great example of this. I was speaking to somebody just last week, and they're coming up to retirement in, I think we've got about 10 years to plan, so I love it when people come in 10 years beforehand.
Thank you.
But one of her goals was, she said, I do not want to ever be in a retirement village, so I want to have enough money on top of our budget so that we can afford in-house care, have a nurse come to the house and look after us well into our ages. So we did some modelling around, well, how much would that generally cost? And it's really hard, right? But at what age would we want to allow this buffer to come into your cash flow? And then what does that mean we need to have? But that was one of her non-negotiables. She wanted to make sure she has that. Others will be like healthcare, travel. They want to make sure that they can always get an interstate trip to see the grandkids, or for them to come up to them. Or your non-negotiable can be anything, but it's the one thing or the several things that you will trade off other areas, but that needs to happen.
Now, I want to hook back to the sleep at night test momentarily. As a financial advisor, what do you perceive to be the main sleep at night things for a retiree?
Yeah, so I think that is making sure that you're comfortable that your income is going to meet your needs. It's being really confident in what your cash flow needs to be, and making sure that you have the assets to support it. Like, I don't want to see any of my clients stress or worry that, oh no, I can't do that trip this year, or some house repairs have come in, or, sometimes it's that they've got kids and they just want to be able to help them out. And it might not be in huge amounts, right? It might be, I'll pay for some flights for you to come visit me, kind of stuff. So I think they're the types of things that it all comes around to you having the security, that safety and the security that I see in retirees. And then it can go further. It can be like, well, your sleep at night test needs to match your investments and things as well. But I think really just the safety and security that you have enough assets to support the life that you want to have in retirement. And the trade-off is not losing sleep over.
What about for the cash flow transition that happens in retirement? Because that's a big reset for so many people, right? You go from, again, full-time wages or something along those lines. Suddenly that's gone and you're now living off your investments. That's a huge psychological transition. Psychological,
absolutely. Because if we, right now while we're working, if we have a bad month, we've overspent, we kind of go, oh, well, next pay, I'm going to sort this out. But if you constantly do that, and you're overspending in your retirement, that's going to have a huge impact, especially if it's in the first few years. I see lots of people think in retirement their biggest risk is investment returns. And I'm like, oh, it's not. It's underestimating your spending. So I just see that happen all the time, that people see, like the Australian financial, what is it, the retirement standard, and they go, oh yeah, I could live off that, sweet, I'm going to calculate it off that. And it's like, you can't. That's what you've been living off, 150,000 a year. How are you going to go to 70? So I love to see people actually test their spending. So if you think that that is what you can spend in retirement, let's put it to the test like a few years out. And that means that we're creating big buffers then that you can add to savings, super, whatever it is. But I love the concept of try before you buy on everything, clothes to caravans to houses. But it comes down to cash flow as well. If you think that's what you're going to be living off, don't wait to test it in retirement. You should be adjusting well in advance and seeing if that's realistic. And if it's not, we just need to adjust the goals, right? We don't necessarily have to change your lifestyle. We just need to make sure that it fits.
Let's talk about try before you buy, because I love that concept too, particularly while you're still working. Because if you try something, let's take we're not going to do the international holidays. We're going to get in a caravan and travel around the country, and
yes.
Cool, great goal. And then so you spend the $50,000 in the caravan, $60,000 in the caravan. Yeah. Then you say, well, we probably need to upgrade the car, so that gets upgraded too.
Yep.
And combined, you've got $100,000+ that's been spent. We are ready. And they take off and they head either, we're in Melbourne, so right now, so you're either heading north or you're heading west. And and so you hey, how's it going? Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, it's a little. There's some inconveniences that we didn't recognise. We kind of miss our family, and so this one's just going to be this first trip we were planning on going all the way north, but it's going to be a bit shorter. We're going to turn around and come back a little bit earlier. You would have seen people go through this experience.
I did it myself.
Oh, cool. Okay. Well, then I'm not going to talk any more about it. You can.
I've done the caravan. I got to my limit at about 3 months of our 7-month trip. So working with retirees, we see it all the time. The dream that we've got factored into when they retire, they need 150 grand for the car upgrade and the caravan. Like when we were on the road, my ex-husband and I would sit at the caravan parks and we'd see the rigs go past and we'd just be like, it's 100,000 caravan. Like, how are these people affording this stuff?
They're not novating them.
Yeah, exactly. So I see it as big goals, and that is totally fine. It's a great goal, and that's a great thing to do. But try before you buy. My advice would be hire a few different caravans first, because the setups are all so different, and the amount of grey nomads I'd see on the road, they're like, yeah, when we get back, we're going to trade this one in and try a different style, or this one's too big, or this one's too small. Just hire them. People think that it's like dead money to rent stuff. I'm like, the buy-in costs and the wait, especially in COVID, to get a caravan and things. I'm like, let's just sacrifice a little bit of money to try a few things and not commit. And you can hire vans. And the other thing is, maybe you're going to do a trip, but then is it going to sit in the garage or in storage for the next year? Could you have just hired that van? Like when we got back from our trip, so we did 7 months. And as I said, I got to about 3 months and I was like, miss my kitchen, miss having doors, miss my family not being so close to me. It was great. Absolutely loved it. But so after about 3 months, I think that was my max. So ideally we would go do 3-month trips like here and there. But when we got back, we realized that we weren't going to use it probably for another year or two at least. And I was like, right, so depreciation, maintenance, the rego, all this stuff. And then I looked up, people go, oh, but you can rent them out. And I was like, nobody's going to look after it. So then I'm going to have more kind of maintenance costs. So we decided to sell it. But yeah, so many retirees that I see that do this have gone headfirst in, and maybe they haven't caravan before, or maybe they haven't tried a few. And I'd say, just try before you buy.
And I've seen this to good use for houses too. So,
yes.
The house is getting too big. We're thinking about downsizing. It's tricky because our kids haven't found their proper homes yet. So they're not, they're not settled in a particular suburb. We don't know where they're going to be. So we can't use that as a reference point. We're thinking maybe go to the beach, or we're thinking maybe go closer to the city, closer to facilities, whatever it would be. The same thing. The cost of going to the beach, for example, and buying the house and staying there for 3 or 4 years and then saying, oh, the kids are still over here, so we're now going to do that. You would have been so much better just simply renting.
Absolutely. I've got an example in the book. So in chapter 12 is all about financial flexibility. So it's about like making decisions that don't tie you into things and trying before you buy. And I had clients that had lived on a farm, like Sunny Coast, quite a big farm for 40 plus years. And they had retired and they were like, right, the farm's too big. We want to live in a luxury, beautiful apartment, like on the water. And I was like, whoa, that's a big change. How about, like, and we just kind of talked about all the different things that they could do. So it turned out that they ended up going and renting one and keeping the family farm because they were going to sell it. It wasn't a financial decision that they needed to sell it. They wanted to just a simpler life, and they thought that, I think the wife was more driving it. Within 6 months of being in the apartment, they had planned to move back to the farm. They had plans on how they were going to change the farm up so it would accommodate like their changing needs so they could actually manage it better. And if they had have sold that, there would be no going back. They would be stuck in that apartment, and they hated apartment living. So I just think, like, we always go, oh, but that's, that's dead money or that's costly. But sometimes it's more costly to make the wrong decision. Yeah. And I think money is a tool. So let's use it to enjoy and make right decisions. It doesn't always have to be the soundest decision on paper. It needs to pass your sleep at night test. You need to make sure that it actually sits really well with you. And it needs to give you flexibility to change your mind.
In chapter 12, you talk about that concept of financial flexibility and particularly how it relates versus financial freedom. Can you talk about that, please? Yeah,
so financial freedom, I think in finance is seen as the ultimate goal. Like, we all want financial freedom, and that is a great goal. But if you've had a big transition, and not so much retirement because we're hoping that you are financially free by then, but if you've had a big transition like a divorce, you're doing a reset, and that might be a divorce later in life. Like, we're seeing grey divorce, 50s onwards a lot, and it can interrupt that financial stability for retirement. But financial freedom is great. But what I talk about in the book is maybe you're going through a period right now where you don't know what life is going to look like. So it's really hard to pinpoint, well, what's my target for financial freedom? Because I don't know where I'm going to live, what I'm going to be doing, where the kids are going to be. So you still need to be making steps to build wealth and to be moving forward so that when you decide what that looks like, you're still well on your way. But financial flexibility is about, what choices do I make today that mean that I'm moving forwards, even if I don't really know what it looks like, and I can change my mind? So that might be renting, it might be rent vesting, it might be living in a home right now that suits you but will make a great investment. So you're not forced to sell it if you don't want to live in it anymore. Just kind of making decisions that could go either way. And it's not like, no, we're buying this house and we will sell it in 3 years to move to the next thing. It's like, well, that's a short period. Is there something that we could do that's a bit more flexible that still has a great financial outcome? So yeah, financial flexibility, I think, is very important. But yeah, sometimes it's really hard to focus on financial freedom and that goal can feel huge. So maybe we just focus on some flexibility along the way and we'll get there at the same time.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
A beautiful conclusion. So Gemma, thank you so much for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. Now, for all of you that I know want to hear more of Gemma, well, then just jump across to the Australian Finance Podcast, where you're, of course, the co-host. And if any of this resonated with you, then please go and pick this book up. It's excellent. It's full of some fantastic practical guidance. So I say this book, assuming that you're watching this, you might not be. If you're listening, it's called The Money Reset by Gemma Mitchell. I presume you can buy it anywhere: servos, hairdressers, Rebel Sport.
Absolutely. Caravans, comes with every caravan.
Go online, would be the easiest way to find this book, right?
Yeah, Amazon, all good bookshops, pretty much every airport under the sun as of next week.
Cool. And a link in the show notes also to go straight there. So thank you so much for going on the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, please listen and please get onto this book because it is wonderful.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for watching this episode of the podcast. If you want to hear more from us, you can get daily videos and podcasts on RASK YouTube channel. Or if you want to enroll in a free course on investing, property, business, money, you name it, you can join over 34,000 other students and enroll in a free course on the RASK website. Simply head to www.rask.com.au and follow the prompts. Thanks for watching this RASK podcast.